One Piece is home to some of the most unique powers in all of anime with the Devil Fruit power system. Across all of One Piece, there is insanely powerful fruits that people get to use to dominate the world of the sea, but in a lot of cases, what makes the difference between a strong character and a weak character is how well they're able to use the power of their Devil Fruit. Today we'll be counting down the top 5 Devil Fruit mastery users in One Piece. The 5 characters who use their Devil Fruit to a grade above the rest of the characters in the series, making them some of the strongest users we have seen in the anime. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what your favorite Devil Fruit is. Starting off with an honorable mention, we have Law. Now, Law is in the honorable mention category because he is stuck with what I consider the most overpowered Devil Fruit in all of One Piece, and he does a pretty good job using it. The reason he's not in the top 5 is because we don't know the full extent of the Ope Ope no Mi's power, and if there's more abilities that Law isn't using because he doesn't know how to use. For example, it seems like Law's Devil Fruit has a unique ability for each letter of the alphabet, yet we've only seen him use a handful of these letters at a high level. Of course, Law's creativity with this Devil Fruit earned him a spot as an honorable mention. However, if he was able to use every letter proficiently for his Devil Fruit's awakening, he might be number 1 on this list. At number 5, we have Robin. Not a lot of people talk about Robin's Devil Fruit because it's seemingly simple on the surface, and it existed all the way back in Alabasta, so people seem to forget about it. But the ability to use your limbs growing out of any surface extremely creatively is something unique to only Robin. At first, we only see her using hands to grab people's necks, but later on in the story, some of the stuff she's able to manage with this Devil Fruit is actually insane. Creating wings through the creation of hands, using giant legs like a sentry turret, creating shadow clones like she's Naruto. I think most users in One Piece who had this fruit would have probably used it as just an extension for hands or using it as an assassin tool like she does in Alabasta, but the creativity of Robin knows no bounds, so she gets number 5 on this list. At number 4, we have Enel. On the surface, having a Logia is pretty simple because it is just an element, especially when it's something like electricity. You might not understand how to use it to its full extent, but Enel is extremely smart with this fruit, making him an extremely formidable foe in Skypiea. You can definitely see this with the way he uses his powers, channeling his thunder through different things to make different level of attacks, and most impressively, reviving himself after Wiper kills him using the electricity to restart his heart. However, the real clutch comes in when Enel uses his Devil Fruit to power the Arc Maxim, the boat he created to get to the moon. Creating a boat entirely by himself to be powered by his electricity using gold as a conductor is so smart that I don't think any other One Piece character would be able to figure this out, apart from maybe Vegapunk. Seriously, every time I go watch Skypiea, I cannot stop myself from thinking how impressive it is that he planned for this boat on his own and was able to power it on his own using only his Devil Fruit. At number 3, we have an unexpected pick because he's the main character, Luffy. Even before we find out the true nature of Luffy's fruit, I would have put him on this list because the things he's able to do with rubber are seemingly not the properties of rubber, exactly what Kaido said when facing Luffy. Of course, now we know that the fruit's capabilities allow Luffy to pretty much do whatever he imagines when it comes to rubber, but even then, to be able to think of powering up his bloodstream for Gear 2 or blowing in air to his balloons for Gear 3 is extremely creative, and I don't think any other user of the Gum Gum fruit would be able to do this. And this creativity goes boundless when he goes into Gear 5, where he does some of the craziest moves I've ever seen in anime. Luffy's lust for freedom and his drive for creativity allow him to do some of the most creative things I've ever seen with a Devil Fruit, so he definitely earned his spot on this list. At number 2, we have a similar fruit, Katakuri. Katakuri is so good with this fruit that at first a lot of One Piece watchers thought it was a Logia in the way it was acting. But Katakuri's observation haki is so good that he's able to mold the mochi past enemy attacks because he knows exactly where they're going to land. But that's not all. Sure, his advanced observation haki allows him to use the best of his fruit, but also the things he does with the mochi alone are extremely incredible, especially when it's awakened. Turning himself into a wheel to avoid Luffy's python was not only really funny, it's super creative, and using his awakening to bounce off the walls like a bouncy ball, he pretty much reminds me of Gear 5 Luffy before we even knew what Gear 5 was. But at number 1, the undeniable best user of a Devil Fruit in One Piece is Doflamingo. This should come as no surprise to anyone considering how cunning Doflamingo is, or if you've just seen the Dressrosa arc, you know how insane this guy uses his powers. For pretty much all of pre-time skip, every time Doflamingo was on screen, we were left thinking he could control people because of how well he was puppeteering people with his strings. But even when we're introduced to the fruit, he's using it to attach to clouds and fly all the way to Punk Hazard. Is there anyone else in the story who could think to fly using strings? This is not even the most impressive thing we see Doflamingo do. He's able to create perfect marionettes of himself using the string as body clones, stitch his insides from the outside in order to heal himself after Law damaged his organs. But most importantly, with his awakening, He's able to destroy an entire country by putting it in a birdcage that was unbreakable by an admiral. Doflamingo's powers were so crazy that by the end of Dressrosa, I didn't even know what type of devil fruit he was using. It seemed like he could just do whatever he wanted. And I think if he were to come back into the story and unlock something like Advanced Conqueror's Haki and apply it to his strings, he would immediately shoot up into the top 10 strongest characters. That's my list of the top 5 best devil fruit users in One Piece. Let me know who you think I missed or what your top 5 users would be. And if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Until next time.